today, which is really great because that means that we can have a little bit more of an interactive presentation. So if you have questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat or just to unmute yourself and go ahead and just ask them. There are a few points during the presentation that are sort of natural stopping points where I'll stop and see if there are any questions as well. But let's go ahead and get started. I am going to turn off my video just because it's distracting for me to see myself as I'm talking. All righty. So yes, thank you for coming to the first steps in starting your small business. So this presentation today is for folks who are either just at the beginning stages of starting their business or who want a refresher as they're building their business. As I said, this is going to be very interactive, so feel free to just jump right in with your questions or any thoughts. And let's just go ahead and get started. So a little bit about MCE and a little bit about me. So first about me, as I said, my name is Nick Rudolph. I'm the Baltimore Regional Director, and I'm up here in our Baltimore office. Before working for Maryland Capital Enterprises, I worked in many Main Street programs in Baltimore City and across the state of Maryland. And I am also an AmeriCorps alumni. Small business is really my passion, and I absolutely love the fact that I'm able to work individually with businesses and then also be able to offer trainings like this. Now, Maryland Capital Enterprises, we are a nonprofit CDFI, a community development financial institution, and we've been around since 1998, serving the Eastern Shore, and we jumped over the bridge to the Western Shore in the Baltimore region of Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County back in 2012. Now, what does being a CDFI mean to you as a small business owner? Well, basically, think of us as a service provider that can offer counseling, technical assistance, and webinars like this, but also we are offering access to capital, almost like a nonprofit bank. So we're here to help people grow and start their businesses who have some difficulty sometimes getting bank loans, whether it's credit issues, small loan amounts, being a startup, or being a business that banks just don't quite understand. In 2020, we were also awarded the SBA designation as a Women's Business Center, both in Baltimore and Salisbury, and we partner greatly with other women's business centers across the state so that we can offer services statewide. Our website is marylandcapital.org or Women's Business Center at marylandcapitalenterprises.org, and on those pages you can find our client intake forms so that we can start helping you for free. But what most people want to talk to us about is lending, of course. So we are an SBA lender, but beyond that, we have other certifications for lending funds, either through other U.S. Federal government agencies, state agencies, partnerships with banks, or money that we raise on our own. So when you apply for a loan with us, if you are approved, we're going to find the best pot of money that you're eligible for, because we want to have you have the smallest possible minimum monthly payment. So anything you are able to pay above takes that off of the principal, gets you out of the loan quicker with a little less interest, and gets us the money to get back on the street. And right after I say that about the lending, I'm going to say again, we provide counseling, training, and assistance developing business plans and much, much more. And those services are absolutely free, whether or not you're going to apply for a loan. So let's get into what we're doing here. Why would somebody want to start a small business? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, to increase income. You've got an idea that you think can make you rich, and you want to go ahead and put your nose to the grindstone and make it happen. Of course, that's a wonderful reason. Maybe you have a special talent, a passion, an interest, or something that really drives you. This is a way that you can monetize that and share it with the world. Of course, that's going to make you move beyond the hobby stage. It's going to allow you to be your own boss. It might offer some flexible hours and also helps you develop a second career. So before we get started, are there any other reasons from folks who are here who want to share why you want to start your small businesses? Don't be shy. Nope. Okay, I'm not going to force anybody to talk. So starting your own business, it can be exciting and rewarding, but it also takes a lot of work. A lot of folks think that starting a small business is going to make their life easier. In the long run, that may be true, but in the short term, it's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of time in the weekends that you're going to be doing work. So really think about that. It's going to really you want to think about your planning. And the reason why you want to have that thorough planning is you want to build a foundation for success for your small business. It's also an opportunity for you to express your creativity, to show the world that you can do something in a way that nobody else has been able to do. Sorry about the slow animation, folks. So here are some scary numbers that aren't really as scary as they seem. So according to the SBA, 30% of businesses close within the first 2 years and 80% close within the first 10 years. But that doesn't mean that they all fail. Oftentimes businesses sell to another business, or, in the case of a restaurant, a chef comes up with a new idea, closes one of their restaurants after 5 or 6 years and opens up another one. So just because a business closes does not mean that it fails. But the truth is, it does take a lot of work and there is risk involved in starting a small business. So I see here, I got something in the chat that Tara said that she wants to impact communities in need. And that is huge. Having a small business allows you to be part of a community in a way that working for somebody else just doesn't. And that is what drives a lot of folks to start small businesses. And it's a wonderful reason to start a small business. So before you get started, there are some questions that you want to ask yourself. And I'm not going to read all 20 of those, but a few of them I think really want to stick out. Why are you starting this business? You are going to set yourself up for some risk and a lot of hard work. So you really want to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this something I'm willing to do? You want to think about what kind of business you want to do. Is that hobby, is that passion something that you can monetize to a point where not only you can afford to take care of your entire family, but you can hire people who can take care of theirs. You want to talk about who your customers are, what kind of services you're going to have, where you're going to be located, how much prep time are you going to have to put into it before you start the business? Is this something you can run on your own, or will you need employees? And are you going to need to buy a whole bunch of equipment to get started? Number 10 here, how much money do I need to get started? That's really, really important, because it's much more than just getting the space to put your business in and the equipment. You also need to think about the fact that businesses don't start off at 100% capacity. So you might need some money to get you through those first lean months. You also want to think about how you're going to get the money for that. Do you just win the lottery and you can just do it yourself, or do you need to take a loan or look for investors? A lot of times people are looking for grants, but the truth of the matter is there are not a lot of grants available for folks who want to start small businesses. Generally, there are things like facade improvement grants in Main Street historic shopping districts that will help you get the front of your building looking good, but they're not going to help pay for employees, internal fixtures, and things like that. You want to think about, is there room in the marketplace for you? Do you have a lot of competition? And if there is a lot of competition, how are you going to work with them or against them to make sure you survive? You also want to make sure that you understand the number of taxes you need to pay, how often you need to pay them, and how often you need to fill out paperwork even when you don't have to pay. You want to think about the type of insurance that you need. And you also want to think about how you're going to manage your business. Can you keep your current full-time job and hire other folks to do that? And then, of course, number 20, how are you going to advertise and market your business? We do not live in the world of if you build it, they will come. Really, you really need to let folks know that you are out there and that you're offering a service that they want to take advantage of. Now, these 10 steps for starting a small business are very important. They are listed 1 through 10, but the truth of the matter is, every business is probably going to do this in a different order. This is not a ranking. This is just a list. So the first thing you want to do is get business assistance and training. You all are doing that already just by being here. Now that you've registered, fill out our client intake form and have one-on-one help as well. You live in one of the best states to start a small business because there are so many free resources available to you to help plan that business. And none of us are going to be upset if you talk to a bunch of us. We're collaborators. We are not competitors. Number 2, you want to write a thorough business plan. And we're going to go into some detail a little bit later about what should be in that plan. You want to understand what your responsibilities are as an employer if you're going to be hiring folks. You're going to want to figure out, where is your business going to be located? Do you need a brick and mortar structure, or can you operate out of your house? You want to figure out your legal structure. So are you going to be an S Corp or a sole proprietorship, or are you going to be an LLC that takes away a little bit of the risk from your personal finances? You want to register your business. Now, is your business name going to be the actual name on your storefront, or do you maybe want to start a larger corporation or LLC so that you can do multiple businesses under doing business as or DBAs? It's also good to know you can change that. Once you decide something, you're not going to be stuck to that 100% of the time. You can always file different paperwork. You want to register for state and local taxes, and you want to make sure your registration is up to date at all times. If you are not in good standing with the state of Maryland, you become ineligible for many of the financial assistance products that we and other folks offer. Of course, you're going to want to obtain a business license and permits. Your municipalities and counties may have different requirements. So you want to check with your county economic development agency. And if you're in a larger city that's got a mayor and city council, you'll want to check and see if there are some of those as well for the city. Number 9, you want to talk about financing your business, and that's what MCE is here for. But you can also think about, do you have a great credit score and you want to go to a bank? You can always do that as well. And then, of course, you want to develop a marketing plan. And when we talk about the business plan, we're going to go into some detail and show you that a marketing plan is much more than how you're going to advertise your business. So before we get started into going into the real deep part of it, are there any questions right now? All righty, hearing none, we'll just go straight into it. So you want to understand your market, especially as we're coming out of the pandemic, and folks are sometimes a little bit hesitant to go into the brick and mortar places. So you want to do this because it's going to help reduce your risk. It's going to help determine if there's room in the marketplace for your business, right? So if you're opening up a pizza shop in a neighborhood that's got 5 pizza shops, you might decide you want to move somewhere else, or you might decide that you're in the pizza neighborhood. This is where people in the area come for pizza, and there is room for you. So you want to spot current and upcoming problems in your industry, but also good things that are happening in your industry. During the pandemic, the trucking industry went way gangbusters. It went huge. People were starting trucking businesses all the time. And you know what? That mail order stuff isn't slowing down as much as folks thought it would as the pandemic subsided. So those are still growing industries. But at the same time, restaurants and places like that are coming out of the pandemic a little bit more slowly than they'd want to. So you want to do your research and understand that. You also want to identify your sales opportunities, and you want to find data and citations for your business plan. You can't just say, I am in a growing industry. You have to show that the industry is growing and that there is room in that industry for you. I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting the next slide. Hold on just one second. There we go. So getting that information of the data for your business, it's really important, but it's really easy to get. So the first thing you want to do is use your internet, google.com. Look to say, let's say you've got a cleaning business, cleaning business numbers in the Baltimore area. Look it up and you will find it. It'll show you, how much business is being done. Are those businesses growing? Is there going to be growth projected in the industry? If you are in a larger industry, look for those industry publications. Check out government websites. Talk to your local chamber of commerce. See if there's a trade organization. And remember that businesses, even though they're small, will be local, but you can also serve regionally, nationally, and even internationally. Also, get to know how your competitors are doing. If you're going to open up a comic book shop, go check out the other comic book shops in your area and see, are they busy? See what's on their shelves, see what's selling well so that you can copy that, or you can find a niche that's different than they have. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to starting your own business. And this is not to dissuade folks from starting a small business, but what it really is so that you understand sort of what is going on. So the pros, you get to be your own boss, which means you can't be fired unless you fire yourself. Your income is determined by your own efforts. So, the more you're open, the more work you do, the more money that's going to come in. You're going to love what you do and you're going to be passionate about it. And then you're also going to be helping to build that community by offering jobs to folks so that they can build their lives. And then they can start their own businesses and offer jobs to start to help other people start their lives. This is how we build communities, and this is why we want to help start small businesses. However, nobody goes out of a 40-hour-a-week job and starts a business and works less. You're going to be working long hours, especially at the beginning. You are betting on yourself, and anytime you bet, you are taking a risk. So you want to make sure that you're feeling comfortable with that. You may have to go without income for a while as your business grows. So did you save up some money? Can you move in with friends or family to get rid of some of your expenses? You want to think about that. If you're not an expert in the field, you might need certifications or education or training. You might not be able to take vacations right away, but maybe if you get that business going in 4 or 5 years, you can take a vacation every month. So you got to think about it that way. Of course, sometimes it's trouble having time for yourself. And then last but not least, while you are your own boss, it is an industry where you're going to have every one of your customers be your boss. And you're really, really going to want to please them, because those Google and Yelp reviews, if they don't like you, those do go on your permanent record. Now, there are special types of businesses that sometimes are available for additional resources, and these are the folks who are most likely to be able to find grants. It is still rare, it is just less rare. So if you've either got a green business, or if you fit into one of these groups, veteran-owned, woman-owned, people with disabilities, minority-owned, Native American-owned businesses, there are a lot of organizations that help folks in those areas, and sometimes you can find some additional resources with them. Another place where Google is your friend. So, what do you need to make it? What are the keys to success? So first thing you want to understand is, do you have the necessary skills? Do you have experience or knowledge in the products or service that you plan to do or sell? Is this something that you feel comfortable just jumping right in and doing? Do you feel comfortable training staff to do that? Also, where will you find the help for the knowledge that you lack? Let's say that you're good at something, but you're not an expert yet. Do you have a mentor, or can you find one? Can you go to the local small business resource center or development center and find, a SCORE mentor or something like that? You want to talk about, what kind of business management experience do you currently have? It is much more difficult to be an employer than an employee. There's a lot of things you have to think about, and you want to make sure that you understand how much work that entails. You also want to figure out if you can effectively recognize and solve problems. Problems pop up all the time in small businesses. I once helped open a restaurant in Baltimore City, and on our soft opening night, our ceiling in the kitchen collapsed and there was water everywhere. We had a great owner and manager who were able to fix it. A half hour later, everything was good. You need to be able to think on your feet. Also, like I said, can you gain skills with a mentor or just with other folks in the industry? Are there YouTube videos you can watch, trainings you can take online, anything like that? So here's a checklist of things that you want to start. This is not inclusive. There are other things that you may need to start your business. So of course, as I've said, make sure you check with your county. Find out if you're even allowed to have your business in the area you want to have it because of local zoning requirements. You want to check and see if there are different licensing requirements. There are certain industries that require that you have a license, and that can vary state to state, county to county, or city to city. You want to make sure you've got business insurance. You need general liability insurance for sure. You want to make sure that you understand how banking is going to work, how your bookkeeping is going to work, and how you're going to keep up on all those payments. You are going to need to borrow money most likely to start your business. So you want to make sure that your credit is in a spot where you can borrow money. Now, that doesn't mean you need to have an 800 credit score. It doesn't mean you even need to have a 600 credit score in some cases, but you want to make sure that you're making payments on time and that you can show that you are going to be a good borrower. And then you want to think about bail. This is a new sort of concept that I absolutely love. Every business needs a banker, an accountant, an insurance, and lawyer. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a full-time accountant and lawyer, of course, but you want to make sure that you've got money set aside for somebody to help do your taxes and somebody to help make sure that you are, following the law, following the regulations, or in the event that something happens and you get sued, you've got a relationship with a lawyer who can help you out. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of starting that business. But before that, I just wanted to see if there are any questions. And while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information in the chat. Alrighty, seeing none, we're going to go into the business plan. So, why do you need a business plan, right? What should a business plan contain? So a business plan really is the blueprint for your business. It is not just something that you show to funders to get money. This is something that you should be looking at every day or every week to make sure that you're following it so your business will be successful. You know, like I said, I'm from the restaurant industry. So when you're starting a business, you are going to be in the weeds and it's going to be overwhelming sometimes. And having a document that you can look at and say, what was my plan? What is my next step can really help to ground you and get you, past a hurdle. But of course, it also is a place for, a document to help you get loans or investors or grants or things like that. And because of that, you want to consider who is going to be reading your business plan every time you hand it out. So a lot of folks nowadays, when they make a resume, they make one big, large document. And then depending on who they're sending it to, they're going to move things around. Jobs that relate more to the job you're applying for, you might put higher up. Same thing with your business plan. If you're applying for a grant, you're going to want to show a business plan that shows how you are going to serve your community, right? How you're going to hire from the community, or maybe you might hire returning citizens or something like that. If you're applying for a bank, you're going to want to show that you can pay back the money. They will love that you're doing all that other stuff, but really what matters to them is that your business is going to be successful and they're going to get their money back. You also want to make sure that your plan is realistic. So you want to make sure that the timeline works and the amount of money you think you're going to be making makes sense. Now, we have 4 sections that I recommend for a business plan. However, your business plan does not need to match this. You just want to make sure that you're having all of this information in your business plan. So the first part, which I would recommend everybody have, is an executive summary. So this is the opening presentation, your elevator speech. This is where it's going to set up folks to understand what you're asking for and why you are passionate about that business. So I often use in my trainings an example of Nick's Dill Pickles, a fake company I made. It's because I like eating pickles, right? So my business plan would start off, Nick's Dill Pickles is a dill pickling operation in Baltimore City that's been open since 2015, and we are looking for a loan of $50,000 so that we can expand nationwide. If that's your first sentence, the person reading it is going to understand what you are looking for, what your business is, and they're going to have a guide as they're reading through the rest of the plan. This is the opportunity for you to get flowery. Talk about this being your passion. Talk about why you got into this. Were you inspired by a parent or a grandparent or a teacher? All that kind of stuff. This is where you want to have that. And then you want to, at the end of it, make that ask again with a little bit more detail. That $50,000 will allow me to rent a new space, buy a bunch more equipment, and cover my first 3 months of shipping, that kind of thing. Now, the marketing plan. I believe this to be the most important part of your business plan. So in addition to how you are going to market and advertise your business, this is where you're going to describe your industry. You're going to describe your target customer. Now, we all want to serve everybody. Everybody is our target customer, but the truth is every business has some demographics that they are going after more than others. You want to put that in your business plan. Even though you are going to serve everyone, maybe your boutique is, for 18 to 34-year-old women who make between $30,000 and $60,000 a year. So you've got nice clothes that aren't $1,000 a dress, but they're a step beyond perhaps a thrift store or something like that. This is going to let people understand who you're looking at, who you're looking for. When you're describing your industry, this is where you're going to want to show that it's growing and that there's room for you in that industry. You're also going to want to talk about your costs and your pricing policy. Are you going to be middle of the road? Are you going to be less expensive? Or are you going to go for the high-end customer? You want to talk about what those costs are going to be and why. You also want to talk about your future plans for the business. Is this something that you want to grow into a corporation, or perhaps it's something that you want to build and sell to somebody else? This is where you're going to identify your competitive edge. And the way to do that is to talk about your competitors, give them compliments, talk about what they do well, then talk about what they might not do so well and how you'll be able to compete with them. I recommend having at least 3 of these in your business plan. And you want to think, on different scales. We had a loan for a comic book store a few years ago. And in her business plan, she put 2 local shops that were strong comic book stores, but she also put Amazon.com, because the truth of the matter is, folks can just buy all this stuff on Amazon. So why are they going to come into your store as opposed to buying things online? All of this is going to be part of your marketing plan. The next section is your organization and operations. This is the day-to-day. What are your hours? Are you going to be in there running it, or are you going to hire employees? Are you going to be an LLC or an S Corp or something else? You want to talk about, how you're going to be insured, how you're going to make sure that you're licensed. You also want to talk about contingency plans. What happens if you are out for a number of weeks? How will the business continue to run? And as we're coming out of the pandemic, folks still want to see a COVID plan. So I know we're sort of past the are you going to require masks phase, but what are you going to do if you find out that one of your employees who deals with the customers has COVID? How are you going to let folks know that? How is your business going to work with that? And then the last part is your financial plan. So this is, partially, what your startup or growth costs are going to be. You want to talk about, how you're going to get that. You're going to want to talk about how much money you're putting in versus how much you're looking for investments and borrowers for, what your break-even points are, what your income and expenses are. And this is also an opportunity for you to talk about any credit issues that you may have, especially if you're applying for a CDFI. One thing that is really, really important, I think, when you're talking about credit is that surprises are the worst possible thing. If you know that there's a ding on your credit report and you let us know beforehand, it's going to be a lot easier to get past than if we find out when we pull the credit report. So before I move on to cash flow projections, which is another really important part of a business plan, I wanted to see if there are any questions right now about building a business plan. And while you might be thinking about your questions, I do want to say if you fill out our client intake forms, you can have somebody one-on-one help guide you through that process. It might be me, it might be one of our other business consultants, but we've got a lot of folks who can help you out with that. Alrighty, a few more seconds. All right, so let's talk about cash flow projections. This is often something that people look at as something that's scary and daunting. And the truth of the matter is, it's a little bit less complicated than most people think. But what are cash flow projections and why do we need them? So, cash flow projections are a document that is going to basically show you what you think is going to be coming in and money going out of your business to show whether or not you're going to be able to make a profit after paying everybody. Real quick, there's a question about where you can find the client intake form. If you go to marylandcapital.org, you can find it on the top right-hand side. There's a thing where you can click for the client intake form. So these cash flows are really a way that the bankers and lenders can look at to see if you have a realistic expectation of how your business is going to grow. So, we do require them for our SBA loans and actually for all of our loans, and most lenders are requiring them. It is a planning tool. So it's a way for you to sort of say, when am I going to open up that second shop? When am I going to be able to buy that second truck to, increase my profits? It's going to show you the difference between the profit and the cash flow, the gross and the net. It's also just for good governance, right? You want to be able to check and make sure you're doing well. And it also shows when you can start paying yourself and when you might be able to leave that job. So there are a few things that are really important to think about the cash flows. This right here on the screen is our cash flow projection document. We're more than happy when you use that, but there are, anything that works for you will most likely work for us. If you would like a copy of these, again, my email is in the chat. Just email me and I'll send you a blank copy of that. And then once you fill out the client intake form, we can set up a Zoom meeting to do the cash flows for your business. So it is a living document. It will change over the life of your business. Not only do we not expect these to be 100% accurate, the odds are the vast majority of your cells in here are going to be different than what reality is. We also want to show realistic expectations. So I like to tell a story about a client from a long, long time ago before my time who opened up a wedding invitation business, one-person shop. She made the most beautiful handmade wedding invitations, and she charged about $1,000 a wedding. Well, our cash flow said there's 10,000 weddings a year in Maryland at $1,000 a pop. I'm going to make $10 million a year. But the reality is not everybody uses wedding invitations. Not everybody spends $1,000 on them. And one person can't do 10,000 weddings worth of handmade invitations a year. So we were able to help her get it down and show that she could be successful on 5 or 10 a month. You know, and if you can show you're successful like that and you get 10,000 a year, you're just making more money. So you want to show sort of in a worst case scenario that you're going to be able to make money. You also want to make sure that you're including as many streams of income and expenses as possible. The reason why you want to do this, you know, especially separating out the income, let's say you're a restaurant with a dine-in, carry out, alcohol, catering, you know, merchandise thing, is that you can see in each of those in reality if you are meeting the goals that you put in your projections. And if not, you can decide, do you want to put more work into building that one up? Or do you want to let that one be as it is and put more work into the ones that are doing well? So that's a way that you can evaluate your business. Another thing that you want to think about is, are your sales going to change month to month depending on the season, right? If you're a pool cleaner, you're probably a lot busier in the summer than you are in the winter, and you're going to want to show that on your cash flows. You also want to make sure to put your loan as income and your loan payments as expenses. It's very important when you're applying for a loan that you show that in there. Number one, it's going to make them more realistic. It's going to show that you think you're going to get that loan. Positivity and things like that really do help. You also want to show all other financing. So if you are getting a loan from us to build out your brick and mortar store, but you have already gotten a loan from somebody else to buy a delivery van and you're paying off on that, we're going to want to see that in there. And one thing that's very important to us is, are you paying yourself, right? We want your business to succeed, but we also want you to have a happy life. You need a place to live, you need clothes, you need food, and you know what else? You need entertainment, because quality of life is very important. And when you're in this stressful building a business phase, you're going to need to blow off some steam, and we want to make sure that there's enough room for you to be able to do that. So that was sort of the documents that are needed for applying for a loan. Well, some of the documents that are needed. I'm about to go in to talk about our loans that we have. A few more slides after that, and then I'm going to open it up for any final questions and answers. But are there any questions about cash flow before we go into our lending products? All right, seeing as there are none, I'm going to talk about our two most popular products. Occasionally we have other loan products when we get specific grants from different funders, but right now this is what we have. So the first one is our traditional small business loans. So if you've been around for 2 years or less, you're eligible for $5,000 to $35,000. We consider that a startup. If you've been around longer than that, you're eligible for $5,000 to $150,000, and sometimes a little bit of wiggle room to get a little bit bigger than that as well. The terms will be 1 to 10 years, depending on the size of the loan. A $5,000 loan will probably be 2 years. A $75,000 loan will probably be 10 years. Our interest rates are currently set at 6 to 12%. A lot of these loans tend to go out in the 7 to 9% range. So when you're doing your cash flow projections, that's sort of where I like folks to have their interest rates set at. These loans do require collateral, and we want it to be as close to 100% of the loan as possible. Things that can be used, of course, are interest in a house. So if you own a house outright or have enough equity to cover the loan, then that's great. If you own automobiles outright, we can use those as well. We can also get creative with our collateral. So even if you don't think you have it, talk to us because you may. We're also able sometimes to use other people's collateral. If your mom and dad believe in you and they're willing to put up their house, that's something we can talk about. Now, our loans are all personally guaranteed, and anybody who owns 20% or more of the business is going to have to guarantee the loan. And that means that they're going to be filling out paperwork and they're going to be putting their name on the dotted line. Now, if you've got a larger business that has a lot of owners where nobody owns 20% or more, we're going to want to see 3 or 4 people who are going to personally guarantee that loan. And that's going to be an internal decision based on your business. I would recommend maybe putting the people with the best credit scores and the best collateral on there, but you might have a reason to do something different. You might have somebody who might not have credit yet because they just haven't taken out loans, but they are an expert in the industry and you're going to want to put them on there. So it really is an internal decision for your business. Now, all of the counseling, helping you do the business plan, the cash flows, these webinars, all of that stuff is absolutely free whether or not you apply for the loan. However, once you do apply for the loan, there are application fees. So ours for these loans are $100 plus $25 for each credit report. We do a TransUnion soft pull, so it will not impact your credit score. And if there are issues on your credit, we give you an opportunity to write an explanation before we send them to the reviewers. If your loan is approved, there are going to be some closing costs. We just take them out of the proceeds of the loan. So if you're not asking for the full amount, the maximum of the loan, talk to us ahead of time so that we can make sure that you ask for enough that you'll be walking out with what you need. In general, if you get a $50,000 loan, you're probably walking out with just over $48,000 in that check. We require automatic debit payments for all of our loans out of your business account. Generally, they start 30 to 45 days after the loan. One thing that is different than us than a lot of banks is that we have no prepayment penalties. So that means, let's say that you've got a job where you're working with government contracts, right? And they've got a 90 or 180 days until they pay you for doing the work, but you've got to pay your employees well before that. If you get a loan from us to cover that, and then let's say 90 days later, you get that, $100,000 check from the government, you can just pay off all that's left in the principal, and then we'll be good to go. You don't have to pay additional interest. You don't have to pay any fees. So you get out of the loan cheaper. We have the money to lend back out. While you are paying back the loan, we are going to either in person or virtually visit your business twice a year. We're going to want to see your books. We're going to want to talk about how your business is doing. We're going to look for any hurdles or challenges that are coming down the road. And we're also going to let you know about any resources or opportunities that we know of. Now, one huge question we always get is, what kind of businesses do you lend to and what can we use this funding for? So businesses, we can lend to just about any type of small business in Maryland outside of, as long as they're in our service area, outside of the traditional SID industry, things like adult bookstores and things like that. We're also not able to work in the medical marijuana or, whenever that happens, the recreational marijuana at this point in time. We are an SBA lender that's federally funded, so that's just not going to happen, anytime soon. Now, as far as uses of the loan goes, you can use it for just about any business related expense. So you can use it for leased out space, build out furniture, equipment, salaries, trainings, all sorts of stuff like that. There is sort of 1 or 2 caveats though. If you're a home-based business, you cannot use it to pay your rent or mortgage or your utilities in your home. And if you are a business that buys and rehabs property either to rent out or to sell, so where you are not going to be occupying at least 51% of that property, we cannot pay for everything, right? So we can't pay for the buying and selling of the property. We can't pay for the actual, building and construction, but we can pay for certain things, right? If you need a truck, to do work, that's reusable. We can pay for that. If you need, equipment like jackhammers or circular saws or, bigger equipment like that, we can pay for that. We just can't pay for things like nails and drywall. Or if you're building out your own office, we absolutely can pay for that. So this is our traditional loan for the traditional borrower. One thing that's important to know is that we do require that you've gone to a bank first and have been denied by a bank, which is a good thing to do anyway, because you might get a little bit cheaper interest rates at a bank anyway. Now, what we also have is a credit builder loan. This is a much smaller loan. It's $500 to $5,000. Generally, it's a 1 to 2 year term, and it's got a set interest rate at 9%. Now, what this loan is for a couple of different kind of folks. Number one, folks who just don't have any credit at all, or maybe you've had some credit issues in the past and want to start or grow a small business and just need a little bit of money. What it's going to do is it's going to help you get started, and it's also going to help you build up your credit score. But it's also for folks who are, trying to turn a hobby into a side hustle, as we say here in Baltimore. So, you're really good at, fixing your friend's cell phone screens, and you want to see if you can turn that into a money-making opportunity. So, you might just need $2,500, $5,000 to get started, dip your toes in the water. That's absolutely what it's for. And it's also for, let's say that you're an existing business that's doing well, and then a tree root grows through one of your pipes and you need $5,000 to fix it. This has got a faster turnaround than our other loans. So I got a question here. Are banks and credit unions considered the same when being turned down for a loan? Absolutely, yes. As long as you've been turned down for a loan for business-related expenses, then you're going to be good to go. So even if you applied for that loan before you legally formed the business, you're still good to go. So this loan does not require collateral. What we would do is take what's called a UCC out on your business. So, any sort of business-related stuff, if the loan doesn't get paid, we might be able to, to cash out. However, if you do have collateral, we like to see that, and it gives you a better chance of a yes. Everything else is the same, except for it has much lower fees, a $50 application fee and $75 closing costs. And other than that, everything is the same. If you get one of these loans and are paying off on it for a while, and then you decide you need more money, you can absolutely come back and ask for, a larger loan. We might be able to roll this one into that one as well. So a few things about the eligibility criteria, right? So we're going to want to see that clearly established business plan. We're going to want to make sure that it's thorough. We're going to want to see that you have experience in the field or have a mentor who can get you that experience. We're going to look at the strength of the cash flow, and again, how realistic it is. We're going to look at the strength of the collateral, and we're going to look at reasonable credit. Now, people often ask, what is our minimum credit score? And the truth of the matter is, we do not have a minimum credit score. We're going to look at the last 12 to 24 months, and we are going to look and see what your payment history has been. Do you not have any missed payments, things like that, because you could have had some issues many, many years in the past, or we're coming out of a pandemic. So you may have lost a job, had a divorce, gotten ill, something like that. All of those things can lower your credit that doesn't show who you are as a borrower. Now, if you went to Disney World and 3 times and didn't pay off your credit cards, we'll be able to see that, and that's a different conversation. There are 2 disqualifiers, though. If you've had a bankruptcy discharged in the last 24 months, or if you have a tax debt and do not have a payment plan, you are ineligible to apply for our loans. Additionally, your business must be in good standing in order to receive one of our loans. If it is not in good standing, talk to us. It's usually pretty simple. It's just a few forms you need to fill out, and you'll be right back in good standing. We're going to look for the general economic conditions of the venture. Like I said, is there room in the industry for you? And specifically, is there room in the local industry for you? And then, of course, we're going to want to see your ability to repay the loan. So in the event that the business isn't successful, are you keeping your job, or are you able to get back into the workforce so you can make those payments? And that's what we're talking about, the ability to repay the loan. So application documents, it looks like a lot, but as you're starting a business, some of these really aren't required. So the first thing you're going to want to do is fill out that intake form. That's what allows us to start working for you for free. Our business loan application is online. That's where you're making the ask. And there are a number of required documents on that. Absolutely required is going to be your business plan and your cash flow projections. If you are a brand new business, we understand that you're not going to have profit and loss or quarterly balance sheets or business tax returns yet, and that is okay. But we are going to want to see 2 years of personal tax returns, 3 months of personal bank account statements, and up to 3 months of your business bank account statements. Now, if you're a brand new business and you just opened up that bank account last week, we're just going to need to see it for the history of the bank account. We understand that you wouldn't have started it before you were starting your business. We're going to want to see written proof that you've been turned down by another lender. And then there are the optional things, and these can be very important. One thing is reference letters. And what that shows is either a mentor or a teacher giving us a letter saying, look, this person is somebody you want to invest in. Or it can be current clients. Let's say that you currently are renting a chair at a salon and you want to open up your own salon. If you come to us with 30 letters from clients who say that when you open up your store, I'm going to move from where I am to your store, that's going to give our loan committee, a pretty good idea that you're going to be successful. But then anything else that you want to add can be helpful. So we want to see resumes, leases, estimates for the stuff that you're going to buy or the work that's going to be done, invoices if you can have those, contracts, like I said, licenses, anything like that. Also, marketing materials. If you've got flyers, email them to us. If you got social media, send us those links. If you've got advertisements already, send those to us as well. Anything that you can give us to help tell your story is going to get you closer to a yes on that loan. So, how do you apply for a loan? Now, for our credit builder loans, it's a rolling application. Generally, it's about a 2-week turnaround to get an answer. But for our traditional loans, we accept loan applications through the first Friday of each month. If the first Friday is, a first or a second or something like that, sometimes we can extend it a few days. Again, we need to make sure that you do the client intake form, you're assigned a staff member, you do the paperwork, we go back and forth and get exactly to where we need it to be to give you that best chance of a yes. We pull your credit, we get any explanations that we need, and then we give it to the loan committee. They meet on the 4th week of the month. These are folks who work for banks and nonprofits, or possibly are retired from banks and nonprofits, who really understand the industry and understand why we are here and how we lend. They make the final decisions. If it's a yes, we send you a commitment letter, and generally 2 to 4 weeks is when you're going to be funded. If you are using a house as collateral, we are going to need a new appraisal at your cost, or an appraisal that you already have that's a year or younger old. Do not get that appraisal until you are approved, though, because we do not want you to spend that funding if you are not approved. If you are not approved, we are more than happy to continue working with you. You can apply back to us in a year, or you can apply somewhere else quicker, and we'll still help you out, getting those documents together. If it was a credit issue, maybe finding some credit counseling, all that kind of stuff. So if it's a no, it's usually a no, but, and we can help you get that loan in the future. So there are a ton of small business resources in your areas. And I advise you to take advantage of every single one of them. Talk to your local economic development agencies. Talk to your business center at your library. Talk to the Department of Commerce. Every region in Maryland has a small business development center. That is an SBA-funded free place where you can get help. You've already paid your taxes. You've already paid for it. Find local universities that have business programs. They can be very helpful. Women's business centers, if you're available for it. And if you're in an area that is, in a downtown or a main street, see if you are eligible there. They often have full-time employees that are just there to help small businesses. Now, before I finish, there's 5 things I like to say at the end of all of my presentations. Number 1, do not quit your day job. Don't stop working until you are sure that your business is going to be successful. As we said in the bail, unless you are an accountant, and probably even if you are an accountant, you need an accountant. These folks are going to make sure that you're meeting your filing deadlines, that you're paying your sales tax, all of that good stuff, because that's what keeps you, number 1, from paying penalties, and number 2, in good standing, so that you're all of these resources are available for you. As I said in that last slide, ask for help. You cannot be in a better place for free business resources. This is also the time to keep your money in the bank. When you're applying for your business loan, it's not the time to go out buying cars and houses and opening up new credit cards. You want to show you can pay it back. And of course, no business is an island. You need to be part of your community. Give to local charities. Be a member of your Chamber of Commerce or Rotary or any other business idea that you have. And you want to make sure that you are seen as a community member. Now, giving to charities, we are living in a strange political climate right now. So you want to make sure that you're giving the charities, as the business that are sort of things that everybody can get behind. Kids, children's, food banks, veterans, things like that are always good. And the way I like to say that is, when you walk into a bar, there's always sports on the television. And there's very rarely news on the television. And the reason why there's not news on the television is that if you either got Fox or MSNBC on, you're going to alienate half of your clients when they walk in, and they might just turn right around. Nobody should be able to tell what the politics of your business is unless you're in like an inherently political industry. But generally, you want to be Switzerland, because that's going to make you able to invite everybody to give you their money, because it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican, their money spends the same. So this slide has got some upcoming events. These are all available on our website. You can just click right on them and register and take advantage of these. A few of these are also in person or offer a hybrid, in person or online availability. They are all great. They're wonderful experts, and keep an eye out because we're adding more and more and more webinars every week. Oop, that always does that. So, I'd like to open it up for these last few minutes for questions. If there are a lot of questions, I've got a lot of time, so feel free. It's not like we just have 4 minutes. But are there any questions right now? Nope. Okay. Well, I come up with my best questions generally after a Zoom ends, so I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information in again. It's also up there on the screen. Yes, these slides will be shared after the presentation. Not only that, you'll have the ability to have a copy of this video, and we will also be putting this video on YouTube. Are there any other questions? Nope. All righty. Well, I hope you all had a great time, that you learned something. Like I said, you've got my direct contact information. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. If you need links to our different application forms, a copy of our business plan template, anything like that, just reach right on out. I really thank you for spending your lunch hour with us today. We offer these at least once a month. So, let your friends know, or if you've got partners who want to see more, absolutely. And like I said, please, please, please reach out. We do this work for you for free, but believe me, we do get paid. And the more work you give us to do, the more money you're putting in our pockets. So you're never, ever, ever bothering us when you give us a question. And with that, I will go ahead and stop the presentation and wish you all a wonderful rest of your day and great success in your businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.